Kena, Bridge of Spirits is a beautiful addition to the action-adventure genre. What I expected to be a visually stunning game with very little depth turned out to be a surprisingly engaging adventure, with satisfying combat, rewarding exploration, and a world that constantly invites you to keep discovering. After playing for over 50 hours, I wanted to cover the game in today's video. We'll go over everything you'll be experiencing in the game. From exploring a beautifully crafted world, discovering hidden secrets, and collecting the tiny spirit companions known as Rot, to learning new combat abilities, fighting challenging enemies, and uncovering the story of a forgotten village. And while the game does have action and boss fights, a lot of the experience is built around exploration and uncovering the stories behind the spirits tied to the land. With that, let me say hello to you watching. I'm Ursus. And today in our Play or Pass series, we'll be looking at, as previously mentioned, Kena, Bridge of Spirits. First, let's talk about the game's story. You'll be playing as Kena, a young spirit guide who helps lost spirits move on to the afterlife. Her journey brings her to a mysterious abandoned village, located beneath a sacred mountain. But something unsettling took place here. The land is now covered in corruption, and many spirits remain trapped, unable to move on. As Kena, your role is to uncover what happened, help the spirits find peace, and slowly restore balance to the land. Along the way, you'll meet different characters tied to the village's past, each with their own story and unresolved struggles. And little by little, as you clear corruption and help these spirits, the world around you begins to heal. My initial impression when starting was that the game was visually absolutely stunning, and since the game's story is tightly connected to the land, it was obvious that they put in a great amount of effort to make the world around you feel alive and responsive to your moves and actions. It made me excited to explore and interact with my surroundings. Although I was still skeptical about the game's story and progression. But after a while, it became clear that the game is built around a very structured gameplay loop. Most areas of the game follow a similar progression pattern. First, you arrive in a corrupted region where exploration is limited. Along the way, you encounter different corrupted enemies and eventually engage in boss fights tied to the spirit that is connected to the region. Once you defeat them and help the spirit move on, the corruption in the area gets cleared and new parts of the map open up. As you explore the area, you start finding Rot, small spirit companions hidden throughout the environment. These companions allow you to interact with certain objects, solve puzzles, and open up new paths, but also help you in combat in different ways. Now let's talk a bit more about the game's main features and mechanics. First, of course, being exploration. The land is divided into several regions, connected by paths, ruins, caves, and forest areas. Most locations are designed with multiple small puzzles or hidden collectibles that reward the player for paying attention to the environment. Some paths are unlocked by completing puzzles, while others require abilities you unlock as you progress. Movement plays an important role here as well. Kena can climb ledges, she can make certain objects move or float, pull herself towards specific objects, which makes movement feel smooth and responsive. Because of this, exploring the environment rarely feels frustrating or slow. Another important part of exploration is simply finding the hidden companions scattered throughout the world. And collecting those becomes one of the most fun features in the game. They are hidden in puzzles, tucked away in corners of the environment, or sometimes obtained through small challenges. At first, they simply follow Kena around, but as you collect more of them, they begin unlocking additional abilities. The Rot can interact with certain objects in the world, move environmental obstacles, and activate certain mechanics that allow you to progress through areas. They also become a major part of the game's combat system. During combat, Rot energy builds up as you deal damage or defeat enemies. That energy can then be used to command the Rot to perform powerful actions, such as briefly distracting enemies or enhancing certain abilities. So collecting Rot is not just about completion or cosmetics, It directly improves both your combat options and your ability to interact with the environment. And once the game begins introducing stronger enemies, those abilities become even more important. Combat in the game is built around a mix of melee combat, ranged attacks, and ability actions. The staff can be used for close-ranged attacks, but it can also transform into a bow. As you progress through the game, you unlock additional abilities that expand your combat options. These include stronger attacks, defense abilities, and skills that include your rod companions. Enemies become more aggressive and introduce different attack patterns as the game progresses. I also found most of the boss fights quite engaging, from learning their attack patterns to finding their weak spots, but I also enjoyed the different mechanics that were introduced. Combat isn't overly complex though. It's active enough that fights stay engaging throughout the game, but you don't get overwhelmed or frustrated. However, the game isn't always focused on combat. Some of the most memorable moments actually come from the quiet parts of the experience. While exploration and combat do form most of the gameplay, the game also has a few smaller features that slow the pace down and give you a completely different experience. One example of this are meditation spots, scattered throughout the environment. You can discover these specific locations while exploring the map. When you interact with them, Kena sits down and the camera pulls back to show the surrounding environment. I wasn't sure if I really needed this experience in the game at first, but it gradually grew on me, to the point that I'm now mentioning it here. You get to see some really nice scenery, but also gain a permanent increase to your HP. It's a small feature, but I think it works well with the game. The change of pace makes you refreshed for the next enemy encounter. As you progress through the story, you also unlock trials. It's a space where you can test your abilities in different setups. Depending on how well you perform in these, you can gain different rewards, from collectibles like outfits and rod hats, to even charm stones. As you explore the world, you will also find spirit mail. These items will allow you to unlock specific areas in the village. This in turn will give you the access to new interesting puzzles and encounters. Now let's talk about how the game performs across a few key areas. Atmosphere and world. The environments are detailed and the world design encourages exploration, naturally navigating the player through the story. Between forest paths, ruins, caves, and hidden areas, the game consistently gives the player reasons to keep exploring. There are no areas that feel unfinished or repetitive. Story and characters. The overall story works well as a framework for the game, and some of the spirits you help have meaningful backstories. However, some dialogue sequences feel a bit lacking, and I did find myself feeling a bit lost. Exploration and curiosity. Exploration is consistently rewarding. You're regularly finding hidden rod companions. There's puzzles, collectibles, hidden spots. The only limitation is that the overall world at points feels a bit linear. While there are many secrets to discover, the game doesn't offer large open regions or branching exploration paths. A slightly larger map or additional optional areas would have made exploration an even better experience. Learning curve and comfort. The game is very easy to pick up. Movement feels responsive, abilities are introduced gradually, and the difficulty increases at a steady pace. Even when boss fights become more challenging, the mechanics remain clear and I would say manageable. Because of this, the game stays accessible while still offering enough challenge to remain engaging. Replayability. For players who enjoy exploration and collectibles, the game offers a good amount of replay value. There are many rod companions to find, hidden areas to revisit, and optional challenges that can be completed after finishing the main story. The addition of New Game Plus and combat trials also gives players a reason to return if they want to experience the game again with all their unlocked abilities. Final score. Overall, that gives the game a score of 21 points out of 25, which places Kena, Bridge of Spirits, in the gold tier. When I first started playing Kena Bridge of Spirits, I expected a fairly simple adventure game that focused mostly on visuals. Instead, it turned out to be a well-structured experience with solid mechanics, exploration, combat, and progression. The Rod Companion system works well both mechanically and thematically, and the combat system adds enough challenge to keep the gameplay engaging throughout the story. The game isn't perfect, some story moments could have been developed further and the world could have been a bit bigger, but overall the experience is polished and enjoyable from start to finish. And if you enjoy exploration-focused adventure games, this is definitely one worth trying out. The game came out in 2022, it's available on PC, PlayStation and Xbox, and they have already announced a sequel to be coming out this year. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. If you can, please like, subscribe and all that other shiny stuff. If you've already played Kena Bridge of Spirits, I'd be curious to hear what you thought about it. And if you're thinking about trying it yourself, let me know what part of the game interests you the most. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!